Hi, this is Kate Lindenmuth with Woolly Warm Fuzzies. Thank you so much for coming to watch my snowman tutorial. And to get started, go ahead and unroll a little bit of your white roving. Don't remove it from the ball. We're just going to kind of roll up to make that bottom part of our snowman, roll it up nice and snug, moving it this way and that so that we get a nice even circle. And by rolling it up nice and snugly, we'll know approximately how big it's going to be. And once we see how big we want that bottom ball to be, we're going to unroll it, see how much roving we've got there, and then we're going to want to pull off a slightly smaller piece for the middle, and then of course an even smaller piece for the head. And once you've got that, we're going to start with the bottom. And this time when we roll it up, we're going to keep it rolled up and start poking away with our felting needle. Now when you use that felting needle, it's very sharp. You want to keep your fingers of your non-working hand out of the way. Be very careful. It's also important to remember to poke all the way through that ball so that you're felting the entire ball of roving. Also, pick the ball up frequently and change the position. If you keep poking in one area, you're going to have a pancake. So as you'll see, I'm going to pick this little ball of roving up often and move it and turn it, and it'll stay in a nice perfect little round ball. I'm sure yours is going to look just like this. And just poke away. And what we're going to do is we're going to poke this ball until it's still a little bit soft, but it doesn't lose its shape when we squeeze it. So we'll be able to give it a little squeeze. It's not as hard as a tennis ball, but we can definitely attach another felted piece to it without too much trouble. If we poke too much at it and make it a hard rock, then we won't be able to add another piece to it. So give it a little squeeze like I'm doing here. Also, if you turn it and you see one side is kind of lumpy, you can poke on that side a little bit more, and you'll notice as you continue to poke with that felting needle that it's harder to poke all the way through. Well, you don't have to poke all the way through anymore. You can just poke part way once it gets a little bit harder to felt all the way through. So just keep on turning and poking that needle in, watching those fingers on the other hand. Pick up your ball and inspect it once in a while. Make sure that it's a nice even shape. You can give it a little roll with your hands to really make it perfect. And then you can start with your middle once you get that bottom one nice and round and firm. Roll that middle one up nice and tight so we don't have to poke as many times. And then we can get started on that center ball. And there you go, just start to poking. And you'll see when you use that felting needle, you'll notice that you're poking the fibers that are on the outside of that ball, you're poking them to the inside, and you're matting that wool roving. And just keep on turning. Remember, if you hold that ball in one place and keep poking without pulling it up off your mat, your foam pad or your burlap mat, then you're going to get too many fibers stuck into that mat, and it's going to be hard to pull it up, and you're going to make a funny shape. You want a nice round three-dimensional shape here. And this is a very simple, wonderful beginner project to do. And once you do this, once you create your snowman, you can make almost any other animal that you can think of, any other sculpture that you can think of, you can make now, because you can make something three-dimensional. And now we're starting on the head, and that means we're almost done. The rest is just lots of fun stuff, like the nose and the eyes and putting little clothes on our snowman. And then last but not least, we'll be doing the embellishments, which is the most fun. So we're going to do this little head, poke away. You already know how to do this. You're going to have to be a little bit more careful with this head. The smaller the ball is, the more likely you're going to poke your fingers on your other hand. So really be careful. Really watch what you're doing. Don't try to watch TV or talk on the phone while you're felting. Really focus on what you're doing. Or just keep a box of Band-Aids sitting next to you. And our little snowman's taking shape. It'll be really fun to put it all together. And not only will you be learning today how to put your little snowman together, but this is a wonderful way to put any parts of any sculpture together, wool sculpture. You'll learn how to get those attached. And we're not going to use glue to attach them either. We're going to just use wool and our felting needle. And that's one of the wonderful things about needle felting. We don't really need any big machinery, and we don't need smelly stuff and messy stuff. And it's just a wonderful, peaceful, calm art to do. And it is art. It isn't a craft. Needle felting is art because you're not using a form, you're not using a mold. This is using your own mind's eye to create. And yours is going to look different from mine. That doesn't make mine better than yours. Now we kind of put them together and decide, are these the right size? If they're not, you can add a little bit to one or another to make it just right. Notice how I can't pull that apart. Watch when I pull my hands slightly farther apart on the roving, it just comes right apart. Look at that. Beautiful. We're going to take a little smidge of the roving. Just a little smidge. Don't need much. And we're going to put it between the two balls, the big one and the little one. And then we're going to use that felting needle and poke, kind of angling down there, right? Going from the middle ball into the bottom ball, and make sure you can feel that needle going all the way through into the bottom ball there, and poke that in. And the fiber that you put in between the two is kind of gluing it together. You're poking those fibers in and it's holding your little snowman together. It doesn't take much either. Just make sure you work all the way around. I flipped my little snowman upside down. You can do that too. And of course, we're going to attach the head in the same way. Nice and firm. You can give a little tug to make sure it's really on there well. Remember to keep your sculptures away from your pets, because pets, cats and dogs, can't resist wool. They will just tear it up. Even your old kitty cat will tear your beautiful sculpture to pieces. They can't help it. They smell that lanolin, that natural oil in the wool, and they just want to eat it. So we're attaching the head the same way we attached the middle to the bottom piece. And you're going to notice that this little snowman will not stand up. And that's okay. If you're going to put a little hook, make sure you drink lots of coffee so you stay awake, by the way. You could put a little Christmas tree hook in the top, and then you wouldn't have to worry about the bottom being rounded. But I'm going to show you in a minute how you can make this little snowman stand up on a table. If you want to make a little winter display and you want your snowman to sit on his own, I'll show you what to do. It's pretty easy. And making sure, I want my snowman to have a little gentle lean to one side, so I kind of pulled my little head and middle part of the body over a little bit. So I'm poking the bottom, making a nice flat surface all over the bottom, poking that up. Not enough. So I'm going to poke that a little bit more and get that nice and flat. Might take a few tries, but you'll be able to do it. I got a little lazy here. Got my heavy duty felting tool. You don't need one of these, but you can go ahead and get one and try it if you want. Just be extra careful. There we go. Got my little standing up snowman. I'm sure yours is standing up too. So now's the fun part. Now we're going to make a little jacket for our snowman. And, oh, I changed my mind. Now it's time to make a carrot nose. And I'm just mixing a couple of different colors, some gold and some reddish, because I don't have any orange right now. And I like to use my fingers to kind of get the shape that I want before I start needle felting. And you can even wet your fingers a little bit before you do this. I just rolled it into kind of a carrot shape, and I'm poking that little carrot shape. Sorry that my hand is in the way and you can't see, but I think you'll be able to see it enough to know what to do. This white pad might help you be able to see it a little bit better. Move some things out of the way and twisting it and poking away to make that little carrot shaped nose. Leave it a little bit unfelted at the wider end at the base so that you have a way to attach it to your snowman's face. Give it a little roll with your fingers to get a nice little carrot shape. Be very careful when we attach it not to get our fingers in the way. Just poke those little loose fibers in and you should have a nice little carrot nose. You can make yours bigger or smaller. Every snowman is unique. And next will be the eyes. And I'm just kind of filling in. If you have a big dent after attaching your little nose, you can add little pieces of the white roving, little smidges around the nose to fill that in. Now we're getting a very tiny amount. You need so little for the eyes, just a tiny, tiny amount. Look at that. That's less than a smidge. I don't know what you'd call that. A speck? No, maybe more than a speck. It's a tiny little wisp, a wisp of roving, and roll it up in your fingers. So you already have a nice little circle, and just poke that in. If it disappears into the snowman, then you need to use a little bit more. There we go, one eye on and one to go. And I bet you're loving needle felting. Hopefully you haven't poked yourself too many times. And then you don't have to put a little smile, but you might want a little smile on your snowman. I like that little lean of the head, that little tilt, so I'm kind of holding the head in that position and doing a few pokes so that that head stays kind of tilting. Kind of like he's thinking about something that makes him happy, or maybe the wind's blowing and he's kind of leaning to that side. We need another little wisp for the mouth, about the same amount as you had for the eyes, but we're going to kind of twist it into a little smile shape. I think they look best when they're smiling. But you can put a frown on yours, or you don't have to put a mouth at all, or you could put little dots, like little lumps of coal for a mouth if you wanted. So now we're going to make a little coat for our snowman. And you want to just pull off a little bit of another color, whatever color you want. And I'm just wrapping it around to make sure I have the right size. I like the coat to look like it's kind of a little bit too small for the snowman. It's going to not completely close in the front. Like when we were kids and we made our snowmen and we'd get a coat from inside and drape it over the snowman, kind of like that. And we're going to poke, and we want to really not overdo it because all that roving will disappear into our mat if we poke too much. And also, you want to flip. You don't want to turn it and turn it and turn it like we did the ball. We want this to be more two-dimensional. So poke for a little while all over the surface. One time around, flip it, and then poke all over the surface on the other side. And you might just do this 2 or 3 times. It doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to do a little more felting once we put it on our snowman. Look at that. Now we need some sleeves of the coat. So I'm going to pull off even amounts. That's kind of a smidge, maybe a little more than a smidge of wool roving, and roll it up into a cylinder shape. And we're going to do the same thing as we did with that little jacket. We're going to just poke all over the surface, and then we're going to flip it. Poke all over the surface again. This should only take you a minute. And tuck any loose fibers in. Now we're going to get our second little arm and roll it up and try and make it approximately pretty close to the same size as the other one. And you're just not going to believe how adorable this is going to be. Probably going to make 20 snowmen and snow women tonight. There we go. And as you can see, they're not perfect. That's okay. That's not what this is about. This is about learning a new art form for you. And if you practice, I know it's a little bit of a cliche, but practice makes perfect. The more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. We're going to attach that coat. Before we put the sleeves on, we're going to kind of poke it to how we want it on our little snowman or snow woman, whatever it is. And poke that on. Sometimes I don't decide until I'm putting embellishments on if one of my little characters is a male or a female. And now we're going to poke those little arms in. Decide where you want them. I like to put them on, both of them on first, and hold them where I think I want them. Put one down and attach the other one. And once that's attached, you can attach the other one. So much fun and so easy. It's pretty gentle as long as you're not poking yourself or anyone else. And now I think I'll do a scarf. I love this blue. It has a little black in it. It has a little black roving mixed in it. And I want to make it a little longer than what you'd think, because that has to wrap all the way around my snowman's neck. I'm going to check and make sure that's going to work before I felt it. Yep, and I want a little extra. And so we're going to do this just like we did the coat and the sleeves. We're going to just poke and then flip and poke and flip. Do it maybe 2 or 3 times. I like to leave the ends a little loose, like there's fringe on the scarf. And as you can see, mostly I use my single little felting needle. That's my favorite thing to do, as opposed to the 4 one. All right, wrapping it around, and I don't need to tie it because I've got my felting needle. So here's how we're going to attach it. We're going to put it how we want it, hold it in position, and want to make sure that smile is showing. A few little pokes. And oh my goodness, he's really taking shape. I think this is going to be a little guy snowman, a little Frosty the Snowman. And now we are going to do a hat. Thinking about black, but I'm not sure. Let's see, does the gold look better or the black look better? I think I like the gold better. Maybe the black. I can't decide. I'm going to do the gold. So what we're going to do is make a little flat circle. I'm going to do this just how we did the coat and the scarf. We're going to be doing that flipping. And I don't want you to worry that your hat is, the bottom of your hat's going to be too big. So I'd rather you make it too big than too small. So go ahead and make it a little bit too big And don't worry if it's not the perfect shape, because I'll show you how to fix it if it's not the perfect shape. And I'm putting it on this white pad so you can see it a little better. It blends in a little bit too much on the burlap. Just poking away, and of course after I poke the whole surface I'm going to flip it, maybe do it once or twice more, and then we're going to make the rest of the hat. And then we're on to the embellishments, which you can do however you want, but I'll give you some suggestions today. Almost done. And when you see my circle, you're going to see I'm not very good at doing a perfect circle. So get out the handy dandy scissors and just trim it. And you'll have a nice circle. And you can make it the right size for your little snowman head too. Want it to be a little bit, have a little longer, have it a little bit larger diameter than your head. Not than your head, than your snowman's head. And now we're going to make the little top part of the hat. A little top hat is cute. We're going to make a cylinder. And like we did with the carrot, we're going to kind of get the shape we want with our fingers, kind of roll it into the right shape before we even start poking. And that way you kind of know if you have enough wool roving. That's going to be a cute little top hat, isn't it? And this one, we need to do a lot of rolling, picking up and rolling, because we want this to be three-dimensional. So make sure you get each end of it. One end you're going to really want to felt well. That's going to be the top part of the top hat. And the other end, just you want to get it basically the right shape, but leave it a little bit loose so that you can attach it to the flat part of the hat. This is going to be a cute little hat. There we go. And now we can attach it. All right, we're going to put the little top part of the hat on the flat part, and we're going to angle that needle in and poke all the way around to attach the two pieces together. You might give it a little tug when you're done to make sure that they're attached. Make sure you get all those little loose fibers tucked in there. And I'm going to trim around the edges, but leave a little bit of that fluff in the center. See that little bit of fluff? That's going to help us attach to that snowman's head. Really watch your fingers when you do this. Go ahead and attach that hat with your felting needle all the way around. You can decide if you want it straight on his head. You can decide if you want it to be kind of tilting to the side like I'm doing. Whatever you want. It's your snowman. And there we go. Oh, there. Now you can see him. So now, embellishment time. I've got some little tiny buttons here, and if you bought a kit from me, you've got some buttons in your kit. I like to do little mix-match buttons on my snowmen. So I think I'll get a green button and a button to match that teal colored scarf maybe. Kind of bring it all together. I use a couple of different kinds of glue. Sometimes I use just plain old Elmer's glue, and sometimes I use a very powerful craft glue. And it's up to you what you want to use. Some people use a hot glue gun. I just find them messy and stringy and hot, and so I prefer to use other glues. If you do an Elmer's glue, you'll find that it takes a long time to dry. So it's up to you. You just have to leave your sculpture sitting off to the side and let it dry before you handle it too much. And I'm picking a flower for the hat. I think that one might be too big. That one looks like it would be just right, but let's see what else I have. And you can find flowers, you can use dried flowers, you can use silk flowers. I go to Michael's and Joann's and I get them on sale. I look for really little ones. I like the little wild flowers the best. And decide on what embellishments you're going to use, and then get your glue. I'm doing a no-no by working on my felt pad. If I get glue on it and that glue dries and I poke my needle into it, it could break my needle. I like how that looks. I'm going to have to use some of that yarn. Different bits and pieces of yarn are fun to use for embellishment. Ribbons, old ribbons. Just be creative and use whatever you have on hand. Or you might want to leave your little snowman without any of the embellishments. It's up to you. But this should be the fun part. I like to put a little yarn around the sleeves. I like to put a little bit sometimes around the collar. So there's my choices of glue. I think I might use that Goop. Goop Craft and Art glue. It's very smelly. And even after you stop squeezing the tube, it still comes out. But it dries fast and it really holds well. And I like to, sometimes I put a dot of glue on the sculpture to attach the embellishment, and sometimes I just put it on the embellishment itself. And there we go. Did that help or what? Isn't that cute? Little flower in the hat. I think maybe a little embellishment on the jacket would be nice. Decide where you want it, and then you know where to put the glue. And like I said, yours might look very different from mine, and that's okay. This is probably my 1000th sculpture that I've made, and this might be your very first, so be kind to yourself. Maybe look at it a couple hours from now and imagine that you came across it in a little shop, in a little antique store. You'd probably fall in love with it and buy it. And you should feel very proud of yourself. And each one you make is going to be more and more beautiful, more and more wonderful, but it takes each one of these beginning sculptures to get better and better and more confident. And I'm here for you. I'm going to be putting up a new video every month on Woolly Warm Fuzzies, petreplicas.net, and you'll be able to try something new. And feel free to email me. You'll find my email on my website also. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. And mostly enjoy yourself. Just have fun with it. If you feel like making something completely different with your leftover roving, you don't want to make another snowman, try it. And this might be my final touch here. I never know until I wait a couple of days. Sometimes I come back to a sculpture and work on it more after seeing it sit there for a couple of days. Who knows? And here's the finished snowman in the Christmas tree.